Welcome to Spaghettimoon's Introduction to Blender. This tutorial aims to get you familiar with the layout of Blender without getting bogged down by a huge amount of depth. The interface and layout can be very tricky at first, but it shouldn't take you too long to get used to it. So we'll dive straight in there into navigation. When you open up Blender, you'll be in the top view, which is this large gridded area here. This is your 3D viewport, and the square you can see in the center of the screen is actually a cube. Hold down the middle mouse button to rotate, and you see we were in top view there. And you also notice that the perspective is a bit warped. That's because we're in orthographic mode. In Blender you can switch out of this into perspective mode by pressing numpad 5, like that. If you're using a 2-button mouse, hold Alt and left mouse button to emulate the middle mouse button, roll the middle mouse button to zoom, hold Control if on a mouse with no roller, and just add Control to your Alt left mouse button combination on a plain 2-button mouse. To switch between views in the viewport, press numpad 1 for the front view, numpad 3 for the side view, and numpad 7 for the top view, as we saw before, and press 0 to look at the camera, and if you've got multiple cameras, press Control 0 to switch between them. The 4, 8, 6 and 2 keys rotate your current view, while the plus and minus zoom in and out, so that's 4, oops, go out of the camera mode. That's 4, 6, 8, 2, and the zoom. It all does it in steps. Most of the time it's a lot easier to use the mouse. One thing that can be fairly confusing is the way in which you interact with the 3D viewport. Instead of left clicking to select something, you right click, and you see that's selected. If I press A to deselect all, you right click to select an object. If you actually do click the left mouse button in the 3D viewport, you will see you move the cursor there, which is your 3D cursor. This can be a point which you can center and where generated objects will actually appear in your scene. It comes in handy for centering your object and your viewport especially. Okay, press Shift Control C to center your scene and view it all, and then press C again to center onto the cursor itself. Okay, we'll go into some of the parts of the 3D viewport here. The window type rollout here basically has all your options about what kind of window to view. Say I was going to look at the UV image editor, I click that. I want to go back to the 3D viewport for now. Next to the window type rollout are the menus, which are eventually probably just need to use the hotkeys for. There are some options which don't have hotkeys to them, but you probably won't have to come here too often. The rollout next to it, which currently says Object Mode, affects the type of interaction you can affect within your 3D viewport. For example, if I wanted to actually edit this, I'd go into Edit Mode. You can also press Tab to go into Edit Mode, and you see we've got polygons selected there. Control Tab to select a different element, and you can see we edit it there. In Object Mode you can't do that. Just Tab straight back into Object Mode, you've got all the other types there. Next to that is the draw type, which affects how your scene is displayed. This is more useful for if you've got a particularly complex scene, you just want to see the wireframes, or if it's very complex you'd want to use the bounding box, which just displays, well, it's not very effective there, but the bounding box just displays the volume of the actual object in a box. And you've got wireframe, solid, shaded, texture. I'll just leave it on solid for now. Over here you've got the pivot point. You won't really want to go into that right now, so I'll just leave that. And next to this you've got the little interactive 3D transform tool. This basically visualizes your actions. As you can see, we've got an axis there. If I didn't want that for the movement axis, as you can see, if I didn't want to have that up, I maybe want rotation up, I click that one, and we've got a kind of sphere that goes round, and you can rotate your object. And then you've also got the scaling one. I usually leave it on move and just use the hotkeys to scale, but if you find it easier to use that, you just stick with that. Next to that, you've got, next to this you've also got the type of orientation that the transform tool gets its orientation from. The global means that it's from the center of the world. If I had it from view, it'd orientate to the camera's angle, and you can see that it follows the camera around there. Next to that, you've got the Layers tab, which is over here. That's primarily used to to organise your scene. It's also very useful if you're only rendering out certain passes of your scene. But mostly and primarily it's used for organising your scene. At the end you've got the render button, which you can render out a frame of your scene. You can also access that by pressing F12, it's a lot quicker. The actual layout is fairly versatile, and you can change it to your liking. You can scale the windows by dragging the edges here, or you can split the windows by right mouse clicking and choosing split area, and you can do all kinds of things like splitting up the viewports. And to join them up you just do the same, and you'll get this up and you can join them just like that. But you probably won't want to customize your layout just yet, so I won't go into any more depth. Now, before I flick over the most prominent features in Blender, I would advise you to learn the hotkeys to it as fast as you can, because this will make your workflow a lot faster. Most menus display the hotkey commands. If you hold your mouse over the particular buttons, they'll bring up a box displaying the hotkey. We'll start off in the buttons window here. This is the actual place where you can alter a lot of attributes that are not defined in the 3D viewport, such as material and subdivision, modifiers, things like that. So I'll just go over these quickly. Right here you've got the panels, and you've got logic, which is the little Pac-Man type looking button. This is used to set up interactivity within your scene. The scripts one next door to it, which is used to affect particular parts of your scene. The material tab, that's F5, and I don't know if F4 for logic, and no shortcut for script. F5 for the shading or the material menu. And if you click add new, you can actually add a material and affect the flexion or specularity and all those options. This one actually has some subcontexts where you control different aspects used on the object with the material, like the texture button, which sort of goes hand in hand with material in a way. And you can add different types of textures, like clouds and different procedural textures like marble. You've also got things specific for the lighting, the lamps, the radiosity, which is for more advanced rendering, and you've got the actual things which affect the world, like the background that it renders out on. You can change here, and mist and all that kind of thing. I won't go into that right now though. Next to it you've got the object, which affects more object-orientated effects and attributes specific to an object, with an extra subconcept specific to particles. Particles can be made to create interesting effects like fire and fur, and that will be covered in a separate tutorial. Next to that, the little square, is the editing panel. That's fairly self-explanatory. It deals with the editing side of things. You can also add modifiers such as subdivision surfaces onto here, and you see the way that works. I explained it in a previous tutorial. You also get more options that come up when you go into editing mode, and you've got more tools. Finally, you've got the scene button, which revolves around actually rendering out your scene in the different formats, the actual animation rendering out, and different types of renders that you use, that kind of thing. The user preferences, which is right at the top here, which is essentially minimized. You can drag that down right here. Around here is the user preferences, as it says, and you can just drag it down and access them. They're all fairly self-explanatory, and you probably won't need to alter many of them, so I won't go into that. It's just a good thing to note there. And up the top you've got the only menu here you'll probably use is the file menu, with a lot of generic commands like open, new, save, that kind of thing. Save image to save a specific image that you've just rendered out. But the ones you'll probably use the most are append, which actually takes information from one blend file and puts into another, which is sort of a merge type of command. And you've got import, which will import specific types of data, mainly models. And export, you can export specific types of data around here. That's pretty much it. Always remember you can change the layout to optimize your workflow, and that's it really. Thank you. I hope this tutorial made you feel more comfortable with the general overview of Blender interface and layout.